The wedding photographer froze, lowered his camera, and quietly stepped aside because he thought I belonged in the family portrait. I didn't. The bride looked at me with confusion, the groom looked embarrassed, and more than 100 smiling guests suddenly turned in my direction. I had come alone, hoping to survive one awkward afternoon of pretending that loneliness didn't bother me. Instead, before the ceremony had even reached its happiest moment, I found myself standing where everyone expected love to exist. I wanted the ground to swallow me, but I had no idea that the most humiliating moment of my life was about to become the first page of the greatest love story I never imagined. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps our community continue sharing heartfelt stories that remind us love often arrives when we least expect it. At 36 years old, Rowan Mercer had mastered the art of looking happier than he felt. His co-workers admired his calm personality. His neighbors described him as dependable. His younger sister often told everyone that he was the strongest man she knew. None of them realized that strength sometimes looked exactly like silence. 3 years earlier, Rowan had ended a 7-year relationship after discovering that the woman he planned to marry had chosen someone else while secretly admitting she had stayed only because leaving seemed inconvenient. Those words had settled deep inside him. Since then, every invitation to a wedding felt less like a celebration and more like a reminder that everyone else had found the road he somehow kept missing. When his college friend Beckett mailed an invitation, Rowan almost declined. He rehearsed excuses about work, illness, and travel before finally deciding he was tired of allowing heartbreak to control his life. He rented a modest gray suit, bought a thoughtful gift, and promised himself he would smile, congratulate the happy couple, enjoy a good meal, and return home before self-pity had a chance to catch him. The countryside venue overflowed with sunshine. Gentle breezes carried the scent of fresh flowers across the green lawns. Children chased bubbles while grandparents laughed beneath wide white tents. Musicians played cheerful melodies that blended perfectly with birds singing from nearby trees. It was impossible to deny that the world looked beautiful. Rowan simply wished it felt that way inside his heart. Everything changed when the photographer mistakenly waved him toward the family portrait. Rowan politely tried to explain the confusion, but several relatives insisted they had seen him earlier and assumed he belonged with someone. The bride finally laughed, realizing the mistake, and invited him to remain for one photograph simply because everyone found the misunderstanding amusing. Rowan reluctantly agreed, smiling with strangers who welcomed him far more warmly than he expected. The awkwardness dissolved into laughter, and for the first time that afternoon he forgot to feel alone. Someone else noticed that smile. Her name was Alara Whitmore, the bride's cousin, a landscape architect whose work filled neglected parks with color and life. She had spent years believing that fixing broken places was easier than healing broken people. She had once been engaged herself until discovering that her fiancé cared more about appearances than honesty. Rather than marry someone who valued perfection over truth, she had walked away only 6 weeks before the wedding. Friends called her brave. She privately wondered whether courage and loneliness sometimes looked exactly the same. When Alara saw Rowan accidentally becoming part of the family photograph, she didn't laugh at him. She admired the way he handled embarrassment without blaming anyone. Instead of becoming angry, he made everyone else comfortable. That quiet grace stayed in her thoughts long after the camera clicked. During the afternoon reception, fate continued arranging unexpected meetings. Every seat Rowan considered choosing became occupied moments before he arrived, until only one remained beside Alara. The coincidence made them smile before either spoke a single word. Conversation began cautiously, then effortlessly. They discovered they both preferred small towns over crowded cities, believed handwritten letters still mattered, and secretly enjoyed restoring old furniture. They laughed about childhood mistakes, admitted adult disappointments, and somehow skipped the usual shallow conversations people expected from strangers. Hours passed without either of them noticing. Across the lawn, guests danced beneath the bright afternoon sun while Rowan and Alara wandered slowly through the garden surrounding the venue. Neither was searching for romance. Both were simply relieved to meet someone who listened without waiting for a chance to impress. Alara confessed that people often assumed independence meant she never felt lonely. Rowan admitted that everyone praised him for staying positive while never asking whether positivity sometimes required enormous effort. Their honesty created something neither had experienced in years: safety. Before returning to the reception, they paused beside a small fountain where children tossed flower petals into the water. Rowan admitted he almost hadn't attended the wedding because he feared watching everyone else's happiness would remind him of everything he lacked. Alara quietly admitted she nearly declined for exactly the same reason. Neither realized they had spoken the words the other desperately needed to hear. The afternoon continued with heartfelt speeches celebrating loyalty, forgiveness, and choosing love every day instead of only during easy moments. Those words lingered in Rowan's thoughts. For years he had blamed himself for one failed relationship, believing rejection somehow measured his worth. Watching two families unite reminded him that lasting love required honesty from both people. No amount of devotion could repair a relationship built on pretense. As guests prepared for dessert, an unexpected challenge interrupted the joyful celebration. An elderly guest collapsed from exhaustion after standing too long in the summer heat. Panic spread quickly across the lawn. Rowan reacted immediately, helping create space while Alara calmly organized water, shade, and assistance until medical professionals arrived. Thankfully, the gentleman recovered quickly after treatment, but the experience revealed something beautiful. Rowan never sought praise, and Alara never hesitated to serve others. They worked together naturally, almost instinctively. Several relatives noticed. The bride later smiled knowingly while thanking both of them for their kindness. She joked that perhaps the photographer's mistake had not been a mistake after all. That comment embarrassed them both, yet neither felt uncomfortable. As the celebration gradually approached its conclusion, Rowan realized something surprising. He had spent an entire day without comparing his life to anyone else's. Instead of mourning what he had lost, he appreciated everything he had unexpectedly gained. One conversation had restored hope he believed was gone forever. Before guests began leaving, Rowan gathered enough courage to ask Alara whether she would like to meet again sometime. Not because weddings created temporary emotions, but because he genuinely admired the woman she had revealed herself to be. He expected polite hesitation. Instead, she smiled with unmistakable sincerity. She admitted she had been hoping he would ask because genuine people had become surprisingly rare. Over the following months, daylight adventures replaced lonely weekends. They explored botanical gardens, volunteered restoring community parks, visited small museums, and discovered quiet cafes where conversations lasted longer than meals. Neither rushed to define the relationship because both understood how fragile healing could be. They encouraged each other to face old fears without pretending those fears had disappeared. Rowan slowly stopped measuring his value through past rejection. Alara gradually released the disappointment that had convinced her trusting someone again would only invite more pain. Their relationship wasn't perfect because perfect people didn't exist. It was honest, patient, forgiving, and built one ordinary day at a time. Exactly 1 year after the wedding where they first met, Beckett invited everyone back for a family picnic celebrating his first anniversary. The same gardens overflowed with sunshine. The same photographer returned, laughing as he recognized Rowan immediately. This time, nobody mistook Rowan for family. He truly was family. Near the fountain where children had once floated flower petals across the water, Rowan quietly asked Alara to take a short walk with him. They stopped beneath the same flowering tree where they had shared their first honest conversation. He reached into his pocket and held out a small velvet box. There was nothing extravagant about the ring inside. Its value came from the promise behind it. Rowan didn't speak about fairy tales or destiny. Instead, He reflected on the ordinary miracle of finding someone who made honesty feel safe again. He thanked Alara for teaching him that broken hearts were not signs of failure but reminders that the heart remained capable of loving once more. He admitted that the lonely man who attended the wedding had expected only polite conversation and free cake. He never imagined leaving with hope. He certainly never imagined returning 1 year later to ask the woman who restored that hope to become his wife. Tears filled Alara's eyes long before she nodded yes. Family members applauded. Friends embraced them. Even the photographer smiled before capturing another unforgettable picture. This time no one questioned why Rowan belonged in the frame. The accidental stranger from last year's wedding had become the man standing exactly where he was always meant to be. Later that afternoon, Rowan quietly reflected that life rarely follows the plans we write for ourselves. Sometimes the closed door we mourn for years prevents us from missing the open door waiting farther ahead. Had his earlier relationship survived, he never would have attended Beckett's wedding alone. Had the photographer not made an innocent mistake, he might never have spoken with Alara. Had both of them allowed disappointment to keep them home, two healing hearts would have remained strangers forever. Before this story comes to an end, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a meaningful comment and tell us, have you ever experienced an unexpected moment that completely changed the direction of your life, or do you believe hope often arrives when we least expect it? If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Rowan arrived at that wedding believing he was carrying the weight of another lonely afternoon. He walked away carrying something infinitely more valuable, renewed faith, a future filled with possibility, and the hand of a woman who proved that love doesn't always arrive according to our plans. Sometimes it quietly waits behind an embarrassing mistake, a shared laugh, an honest conversation, and the courage to show up even when your heart tells you to stay home. Hope has a remarkable way of finding those who refuse to stop believing, and the brightest chapters of life often begin on the very day we thought nothing extraordinary could ever happen again.